suicide. If you want to take your chance, then I'm a doubting Thomas all the way. But by God, when that Pearson woman, who could not have a baby, according to every doctor, had the baby that I prophesied, that the suicide woman, that was Jim Randolph's girlfriend, when she committed suicide, I said, you will have the child, and it will be a boy, and the boy will be deserted. And that's exactly what the woman did. I'm not going to forget that. I mean, I understand the universe, but I know one damn thing, our mind goes beyond the universe. Don't stop no damn casket. When you commit suicide, you're in the worst kind of hell you ever were in. You going to do, stab yourself, this silly ass thing?
No.
Guy, you're outrageous now. You better be humble. Who can't respect a soft and gentle man? A hard-working gentleman. You pick a punk. Same age you were, and it's the best thing that ever happened to you. It makes you strong. You used to like sex, one lady told me. So I used to like sex until I had 3 People's Forum rallies. She said all that shit I listened to took all my desire away. And that's the effect it has on you. This is a goddamn mess. Would you hold the microphone here just while I close out? I'm so sorry. What is it? You go up with 4 people for 3 months. Or if you go 6 months, you got 2 fucks in a year. I don't mean 2 fucks. You've got 2 people you can have intercourse with if you want to, in the final analysis. And that's wrong to expect to hold it against somebody because you have said something to them and they felt they wanted to come to me with it because they didn't know how to handle it. I wanted to have the backing of the office. I wouldn't do that. I feel that the people's working down in the piggery.
Everything that went on over here on Compton last Friday night. And she said it was an experience that she will never forget. And I talked with her and I said, just think how difficult it was for you to go through this just a few hours. And this is why Father wants to take us away from here. Because he knows that if we can't take it for a few hours, how in the world do you think you can take it day after day after day after day after day? And you know, we have not had 1-month wars. They have lasted for years. So think before you talk. I would also like to say that I heard Father say one time that if you keep the right attitudes, the right spirit, and the right vibrations, you won't have to worry because I'll stir the pots and there will be food for everybody. If you are not receiving messages, please give your name to one of the counselors or ushers, and they will get it to the proper place, because we do wish that everyone is contacted. Somebody asked for something to be picked up. I think I can take care of that. Let's see. I'll talk with you, Julia, about that, and we'll see if we can arrange something, without having to come up here for that. I hope I've gotten all these announcements. All right, thank you.
All right.
Jetta would like some tickets.
Okay. While she's coming up, if you wonder why I go down and give a drink of water to one of our senior citizens, I can tell when they're having problems staying awake. Sometimes their blood sugar's high. Don't question me. I can tell when they're sitting here. I know the problems of being older. Our people are young, all of them. So I don't just pick someone out arbitrarily. I don't feel you people need to be more alert of each other when you see a senior citizen doing this. They don't want to go to sleep, or they wouldn't be here if they wanted to go to sleep. Don't you criticize them. Feeling better now?
Yeah.
Okay. I waited too long because I know you've been having problem for some time.
Peace and love. Sister Lydia Thomas, stand up. I want the people to know that we have a working for the Jonestown, and we have 10 on our working.
If you please, daily walking close to thee, grant it, Father, if you please.
Sister Nevada Harris. Where is Nevada Harris? Take the microphone to her. Father sees that you have at times signed your name Nevada Young Harris.
Yes.
You have in the past had dealings with a Dr. Sonnenfeld.
Right.
And he couldn't help you, so you stopped going to him.
That's right.
After your second husband died, you went with a man named Wayne.
Yes.
And he told you then that this country is heading toward fascism.
Sure did.
He is dead now.
Yes.
But his spirit is with Father.
Yes, how wonderful.
Dear sister, Father sees that you have 4 sons.
Right.
And your 5th son died of cancer at a very young age.
The second son.
Well, I mean the one that is not living.
Oh, yes,
You
yes.
had 4,
right,
and
right.
the 5th
I
one is
understand.
dead.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Sure is.
And he was studying to be a teacher.
Right.
And he was so talented.
Sure was.
And you grieved so over him.
Sure did.
Father wants you to be at peace,
Thank you.
knowing your son is also safe in your loving Father's keeping.
Oh, thank you, Father.
Now you have grandchildren.
Yes.
Anne, Sandra, Donna, Cynthia. And they hold special spots in your heart.
Sure
Your
do.
faith in this holy cause and dedication to truth and justice now enable Father to reach out and touch them.
Oh, thank you.
Take these cloths for those loved ones, as well as one for yourself to prevent a heart attack.
Oh, thank you, Father.
For he shall endure unto the end, and the same shall be saved.
Thank you. Thank you.
Just a closer walk with thee. Grant it, Father, if you please. Daily walking close to thee. Let it be, dear Father, let it be.
Ida Mae Clips. Ida Mae Clips. You are from Corpus Christi, Texas.
Yes.
Your maiden name is Pleasant.
Yes.
And you say in your mind that you try to live up to that name, but people make it difficult.
Yes.
Father knows the pain you've suffered. His spirit was there with you that time when you lost 3 cousins.
Yes.
2 distant cousins and your father
Yes.
at nearly all the same time.
Yes.
You lost your mother, Henrietta, in 1944.
Yes.
You have a green pantsuit, 2-piece with a gold pattern.
Yes.
Father is looking now into the future to change events that would have happened to your life. Do not wear that pantsuit until after the 16th of June. And always wear your seatbelt and meditate 2 minutes without fail, and be very careful with your driving. But do not fear. If you do these things and always think of how very, very much Father loves you, all will be taken care of.
Thank you.
Just a closer walk with thee. Grant it, Father, if you please. Daily walking close to thee. Let it be, dear Father, let it be.
All right, now I want you to listen very carefully. If you have 4 children, 2 girls and 2 boys, you must have a red cloth now for protection. Stand up. As you get them, then sit down so we'll know everybody got them. Now, Exie, you have a daughter named Beulah and a son Johnny, so you must have an additional cloth. Walk
With thee. Grant it, Father, if you please. Daily walking close to thee. Oh, grant it me, dear God, let it be. Through this world
but
I
thou art strong.
stand. Jesus, Father, keep me from wrong. I'll be satisfied alone. As I walk, let me walk close to thee.
Stand up. Take your neighbor's
Just
hand.
A closer walk with thee. Grant it, Father, if you please. Daily walking close to thee. Oh, let it it be, dear Father, let it be. Through this world of toil and stand, if I falter, God who cares, lead me safely, gently on to thy shore, to thy kingdom shore.
Okay. Now, I want you to hold your neighbor's hand. We're going to close this by singing, Thou art weak. I am weak, but thou art strong. And I want that to be our prayer and our aim, that we'll have a closer walk with him. Don't anybody walk out of here till everybody has a ride home. Okay, okay.
I am weak, but thou art strong. Father, keep me from all wrong. I'll be satisfied as long as I walk. Let me walk close to thee. Just a closer walk with thee. Grant it, Father, if you please. Daily walking close to thee. Let it be, dear Father, let it be.
I want you to go in peace and the knowledge that God loves you and you're all needed. Take very good care of yourselves. Watch your driving. Follow all the rules. You're all important. It's been a beautiful day, and I'll see you in 2 weeks, okay? Be sure to be here tonight, because there's going to be someone here from San Francisco to hold a meeting tonight.
Attention, attention, attention. We do not want to hear any more about suicides or running away. If you do that, we just have to turn you to the authorities. People do this, as one person was telling me, to get attention, who'd tried it before. To get someone to get attention, please just write in the suggestion box, and I'll gladly give you any attention, because I don't want you to be seen picked up by the authorities. We have one young man who's come back very sick. 3 times he tried to get away from us. 3 times we caught him. But in the process, something caught him. His temperature was soaring high. They got it down. It'll come back up again, I'm sure. He is very sick. You're going to have to be very cautious to not seek attention in crazy ways. If you feel shortchanged when it comes to attention, please put it in the suggestion box. That's all I wanted to say. Be sure to be in your seats at 7:45 for the news commentary and the Russian that follows. Then there'll be a movie following that
going to try to shorten all things, so there'll be a movie following that, a very good movie called Sounder, about a black family in a touching situation. I want to see more push around here and more fly swatting. A lot of names are going to be brought up. Much love to you. Okay. This is house through public services, where you could have taken care of your own home and avoided public services. Now remember, all children who act out also go to the ordinary public service union. Let them know how they work at night and how they work in the daytime, so the children can decide what kind of thing they want with their life. If they want to continue to act out, is it worth the price they're going to pay? We have to have peace. We have to have law-abiding citizens loyal to our Prime Minister, the Guyana People's National Congress, our party, PNC. So that's all I have to say. Be sure you follow the news closely. Thanks so much, and much love.
And you know, we have not had 1 month wars. They have lasted for years. So think before you talk.
Attention. Remember, at 7:15 promptly, I'm advising now and holding all security helpers responsible to see that every room, house has a roll check. That's the way we have to do it these days, because someone may die out there, just as the young man now, feverish. We had 2 young men that have been bitten out there in the wilds. And there's no use for you to try to run away from what? To what? You run into tigers, Amerindians, snakes, insects that will give you diseases that are not even in Jonestown at all. It is very stupid to do so. If you want to go back to Babylon, when our people get settled, you can we'll give you our welcome and good graces to go back, even though we think you're foolish. Now, so please, if you have problems of pressure, write them up in the suggestion box. I will not make them public. Never. But don't do these stupid runaways, because I will be forced to call the police. We cannot keep our people up all night. I had to call the police last night and cancel the police, because we have nothing to lose now. They told every lie in the book, and we've got all this good press, even in Hearst, KGO, KSFO, all kinds of KPOO, you name it, we had it on every station in the Bay, and now they're going to Los Angeles. So we have nothing to worry about any kind of lie you would make up. You are spiting your nose, cutting off your nose to spite your face. So I urge you, please, for your sake, don't go out there. The young man, when we touched him last night, was just burning up. And he's quite ill. And also Vincent was ill for a couple of weeks. I urge you, do not go into the wood. Don't go into the grass and hide. You do not know what lurks there. After all, in town, in the headquarters, it was a bushmaster that Cleve Swinney found just the other day. And the bushmaster is so fierce that if you run over them with the front wheels of your car, you have to have the windows up, or they will be in your car to get you for harming them before you get a chance to roll over them with the back wheels of your car. I think you don't understand the potential of diseases that are there, and the power of an extra-dimensional part of socialist mind that is here that protects you. So I'm urging you, please, don't go through it. We will just have to call the police, or you'll just have to stay out there and rot, because we are not going to go through that kind of situation. You've seen we catch everyone that goes. If we don't, the Guyana Defense Force will. They have an agreement to send you back. So does the U.S. Embassy. So does the tax clearance. You can't get out. And if you go across the Venezuelan border, you are crazy. The president's a nice man, but there are some in the army that are kidnapping anybody they can kidnap. And there are people out there lurking about, looking for clothes. They'd kill you to get the clothes off your back. So I hope you take this seriously to heart. Remember, now we're going to have the news presentation from 8:15 to 9:15. They did it magnificently, making it both by written, visual, and by discussion. Then at 9:15 to 10:15 will be the Russian language this time, a little longer than usual. Then we would like for you as many as possible. It is not mandatory, but we would like as many as possible to see Sounder, because at some point or another we will be showing interest in Sounder in terms of testing. But all that's required is the Russian language, which follows the news, and everyone must be in their seat at 7:15. People's helpers, if they're not there, turn them to Vanetta Christian. It's an automatic warning. Thank you, and I love you very, very much indeed. Attention, attention. I told you that the Soviet ambassador gave us high intelligence reasons to not venture out of our community, to equip people with flashlights, our guards. That was long before anybody ran off. The 3 we captured last evening brought them back to safety. So it was the absolute truth, no reason to tell you anything but the truth. They have information that kidnappings are taking place, and people who resist are beaten to death. So I do hope that all of you will stay in your area. You're to be in the news arena, everyone, and you're to be in the language arena, everyone, except those excused by me personally. Then Sounder, which comes on at 9:15, you're to do an hour of this intensive news discussion and an hour of language, and then 9:15. Sounder's not that long a movie. You can get home a little after 11. I'd like for a lot of you to see it, because I will be asking some questions about it from time to time. But maybe you'll be lucky and get it another time. You're either to be in the library or the theater, or in the place that I have agreed for you to be. And I'm telling People's Helpers, don't take anybody's word. Check with me to see whether I have. I'll be roving about. Check and see if they are where I said they would be. We've had a lot of people who carried over their pathological lying to Jonestown. We've had a great breakthrough, as I said. By listening to my prophetic feeling, Dr. Lane got up and listened to me, a great scholar, world-known author, and did what I asked him. And it caused National Enquirer and the New West to stop their filthy, dirty lies that would have hurt more of our people back there. They stopped the story entirely. All right. I love you very, very much. Take care of yourselves.
Item Eclipse.
Attention. News of the day. We're talking a little bit about racism as it is developed in the United States. Approximately 45 million students return to the stations, the nation's elementary and secondary schools this month. All of them nearly went to racially segregated schools. Our situation, we'd seen improvements in the schools, has now reversed itself. A similar pattern of racial segregation will be found in any examination of the places where most people in the United States work and live. To deny these facts, said the New York Times foreign edition, they never printed at home, unfortunately, is to deny one of the central realities of life in the U.S. today. But to describe this segregation merely in empirical or statistical terms really tells us very, very little indeed. There is, after all, nothing inherently unjust or obnoxious in people of similar national and racial backgrounds, and origins living together in particular communities, going to the same schools, or even
concentrating in certain occupations. To comprehend the significance of racial segregation in the abstract, the problem is that schools in which the majority of students are black, are made up of other oppressed minorities, are decisively inferior to the schools where the students are white. The budgets for white schools are bigger, so much bigger that it's sickening. In some places, 8 times more money, 8 to 1 more spent on the white student than black. The budget for white schools are thus astronomical. The facilities in general for whites are always better and newer. The educational content is more comprehensive, and the range of subjects more varied. That's what's happening. We've already drifting to a society of apartheid in USA, one separate and unequal. A society where Governor Turner said before they framed him and put him in jail when he was the head of the U.S. Human Rights Commission, we're fastly headed for 2 societies, one separate and one unequal. Separate and one separate and one unequal. That certainly, I think, is the basic thing we're seeing happen now. To comprehend the significance of racial segregation in the U.S. requires an examination of the real lives of real people under the conditions of the system of de facto apartheid. That means almost apartheid, actual apartheid, but not really a law yet, which the law will be coming, Senate Bill 1437. That prevails in USA. Now, New York Times is saying USA is an apartheid government de facto. That's bad. That's comparing it to the worst regime in the world. U.S. imperialism now ranks with Union of South Africa. Here the content of racial segregation becomes clear. In education, the problem is not for segregation in the abstract. The problem is that schools in which the majority of students are black are made up of other oppressed minorities are decisively inferior to schools where the students are white. The budget for white schools are bigger, so, as I told you, astronomically so. The facilities in general are all newer, and the educational, and they're bigger, they're better. The educational content, as I said, is more comprehensive, and the range of subjects are much, much more varied. The rate of school dropout is lower, and the percentage of students going on to higher education and better paying jobs is greater by 3 times. I went over some of this twice so that you can see just what apartheid really, and you spell A-P-A-R, you got to recognize that apartheid is, in fact, in USA, A-P-A-R-T-H-E-I-D. That's where blacks live in concentration camps. And that's what New York Times says actually is already de facto. In fact, is happening. Though the law doesn't stand there with machine guns, it is happening. When you say you have apartheid de jure, that means the law is very open about it. The same clearly holds in residential segregation in black and other minority ghettos. In housing, the housing is absolutely appallingly substandard and poor. Public service facilities are terribly inferior. Disease and illness more widespread. Life expectancy shorter. Merchandise in the stores of poor quality and disproportionately higher in price, and crime more rampant along with drugs and prostitution. Orchestrating this grim picture is a picture of police brutality, the like of which has not ever been seen in the world since Nazi Germany. They're even reportedly more brutal in U.S. than Union of South Africa. Well, to show you the indication of it, there are now 60-some large cities in USA that have complained to the United Nations because they can't get anything done for the citizenry about police killing innocent bystanders and using brutal beating techniques and even on occasion torture. Anyway, this brutality and naked repression by the state apparatus is a particular characteristic of a racially segregated ghetto life. Racial segregation on the job expresses itself in the well-known statistics on incomes for blacks and other minorities. They only make 48% of white income, the black man doing the same job. Concentration is unskilled and higher-risk jobs, danger jobs, the dirty jobs, the most undesirable jobs go to the Indian, the black, the Asian, the Chicano. Lack of opportunity for the advancement and the like. It also expresses itself off the job in the higher rates of unemployment for black workers. It's all over double, 60% that of whites, 60% more unemployment amongst black, Indian, and brown-skinned people, Asian, and again, all the minorities. It's double that of whites. Accompanying this pattern is predominantly white trade union bureaucracy, which in most cases cares little and does less for the rights of minority workers, as we saw in the struggle of the United Mine Workers when they went bravely 115 days, and the CIO, AFL would not, AFL-CIO under Meany, the big stoolie of CIA, and the boss for capitalism, who's a capitalist himself, not worthy of being called a labor leader, refused to even give them food enough. So there is clearly a predominant pattern, and of course trade union bureaucracy in every case cares little and does less for the rights of minority workers. All through the trade union leadership you find bigotry and the supervisorial level. The shop steward and stewardess, they're bigoted. And then when they're not, they'll have an Aunt Jane or Uncle Tom. This thus makes a pattern of predominantly white trade union leadership. In other words, racial segregation in the United States is not, as the Supreme Court has acknowledged, a condition of mere separation, but of inequality. The struggle against segregation, therefore, is not a struggle for some abstract concept of integration, but for actual and concrete advances in social condition. And these never can be brought about until the apparatus of power, the means of production, the means of distribution, is put in the hands of the people, where they get all of the product of their labor. You'll never eliminate this thing through tokenism of capitalism. This racism will get more grassroots. It has to be a revolutionary government that abolishes racism, like People's Republic of Cuba, the communist Cuba, where racism is considered a violation of law, and the Soviet Union, to even make a racist joke, is a violation of law. One aspect of this struggle, the ambition of most of the legal expressions are enforced segregation, has registered many significant advances over the past 2 decades, but the elimination of legal Jim Crow has brought about but the elimination, as I said, of Jim Crow has not brought any fundamental change in the actual conditions of life faced by minority peoples in USA. How could it? Only idolaters of bourgeoisie democracy. You know the major enemies of internationalism, Marxist-Leninism, is those who believe in social democracy. Things can come through electoral change, or Trotskyites who want unnecessary violence, anarchy, those who want to do their own thing, and revisionism, who want to get away from the statements of Marx and Lenin and interpret them their own way. So only idolaters of this kind of bourgeoisie social democracy, the same people who believe that the election of reformist politicians can actually produce basic social change, claim that racial inequality, and national oppression in USA have come to an end with the abolition, the elimination of what are the only the legal expressions of that inequality and oppression in imperialist USA. Has USA monopoly capitalism abandoned its fundamental reliance on racial and national oppression as a cornerstone for its economic and political needs? Of course not. Can it possibly give up its super profits it extracts from the underpaid labor of blacks and all the other minorities, making half that of whites? Of course not. Can it willingly give up its reliance on a permanent industrial reserve, and minority worker and women workers make up the biggest portion of that reserve? Of course not. Which serves to depress the wages, working conditions, and living standards of the entire working class. No, they're not going to make any changes along those class stratification lines without armed struggle, as Marx said. Can it be so readily, the capitalist system so readily abandon the powerful weapons of racial antagonism, which are now stirring up all over America? Riots in every city, blacks being abused, Indians being abused, Chicanos. They stir it up. The system does that. Evidence of that's been brought to light by the Freedom of Information Act, which showed the FBI and local police doing it, even in San Francisco, trying to get riots started so they could get people arrested. Maybe that was the case down in our Los Angeles temple. Who knows? Anyway, it's not going to give up this powerful weapon of racial antagonism, that is the finance capitalism or U.S. imperialism, which it exploits to keep the working class and all the oppressed divided and fighting among themselves. Racism is a basic economic and political underpinning for U.S. monopoly capital, which means that the struggle against racism, not just in its legal or ideological form, but in actual social practice, is an inherently revolutionary struggle, even though it may express itself in the demand for certain specific and immediate reforms. Today, the struggle against segregation is unfolding most sharply in the just demands for affirmative actions to end not just legal barriers to equality, but every barrier to equality of rights and social conditions, though the movement is very small in USA, and the odds of its success are very, very poor indeed. These so-called democratic demands include the establishment of minimum quotas for the training and hiring of minority workers, and for admission to professional schools, school busing to break up the actual patterns of racial segregation in education, special provisions for additional seniority rights for minorities, for minority workers to guarantee that they will no longer be the last hired and the first fired, and special funding and special programs to be run by minority people themselves that can address the actual conditions in ghetto communities. Always, though, this money, if it even were granted, gets siphoned off by Uncle Tom bureaucrats at the local level, like I saw in the Housing Authority, making themselves rich at the taxpayers' expense. It is particularly important to underscore here that this struggle is not one of the minority peoples alone. The struggle against racial segregation in all its forms is in the direct interest of the entire working class. First of all, we must note that every democratic gain won by minority peoples throughout history has been immediately and directly benefited the white workers as well. The abolition of the poll tax in the South, that was no concern for blacks, not at all. For instance, brought voting rights to poor whites as well as blacks. Open admission programs enabled poor whites as well as blacks, other minorities and women to gain access to higher education. Where blacks have won greater rights in the trade unions, those organizations have greater rights in the trade. They have greater rights in the generally become more democratic and more responsive to the needs of all workers. but there are very few unions that have any kind of semblance of integration. Equality of workers within the workplace strengthens the bargaining position of all workers. But again, that concept, I'm giving you a concept of the times, and it is revisionist. You cannot work for change in the society that is so terrorized and terrorizing other nations with napalm and neutron bombs. No use to try to talk your way into a new society. You'll have to fight your way there. On a larger scale, the struggle against racism is the fundamental underpinning for forging the unity of the working class as a class capable of challenging the bourgeoisie, not only for better social conditions, but ultimately for actual power to the people, governmental power. These are the reasons why the struggle against racism in all its forms is in the direct interest of the white workers as well as the minority peoples. These are reasons why communities and social reformers and communists, particularly communists, know that you must place the struggle top-notch against racism, racial segregation, and national oppression at the center of the revolutionary task of the working class. But again, as I said, it'll take more than rhetoric. President Carter formally opens the next round of peace talks between Egypt and Israel tomorrow morning. Yes, at the White House. More of his sellout maneuvers. Congressional leaders and members of the diplomatic corps are then expected to attend these ceremonies. The negotiating teams will then move across the street to the presidential guest residence to begin a series of long